Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of
A Fan's Perspective.
This time, guys, for the first time in about maybe 3 or 4 episodes, it's just the crew today. Me and Shelby, talking about what has again been the theme for this summer: video games. Because, I mean, ain't no movies coming out.
Yeah, and to be fair, we didn't consistently talk about video games previously. Like, we were talking about TV shows, we were talking about movies, so video games deserve a good run.
Yeah, they do. They definitely do. Tying back to what I had just brought up, the reason why we're bringing this up today is because it hit me that people are going to be looking for content pretty soon. Because without movies coming out, people can only Netflix so much. Now, I know some people have made binging their hobby, which props to you. It's impressive. I can't do it, but I think that
one of the hardest things about it is just committing that time to it. Like, like binging is cool when you don't have anything else to do. I feel like, or if you even want to put something in the background. But one of my things is just committing to different things like that.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, I'm gonna watch One Piece. Like, that's a commitment.
Yeah,
and that's a lot.
Yeah, like I know someone who is committed to legitimately watching Naruto and Shippuden and not skipping filler. And I'm like, bro, you have to. It's the only way you're gonna get through this and not want to slam your head through a wall.
Yeah, I don't know why you wouldn't want to. Trust me, you can do it.
It does nothing.
But if they want the full Naruto experience, that includes filler.
Yeah, and one of these days, folks, we will discuss Naruto. I'm sure we have brought it up, but Naruto is a show that is very dear and near to Shelby and my hearts.
We grew up with it.
we grew up with that show. I stand by. It might be our first real every day a new episode. I mean, every week a new chapter releases, a new episode releases thing, because it was one of those shows that was kind of catching up in America while it was going on in Japan, versus it already being over in the 90s or the 80s and America showing it much later. But we'll get into that another day, because that's going to require a deep dive.
Dragon Ball? You're not talking about Naruto.
No, I'm talking about, with Dragon Ball Z, Yu
Naruto
Hakusho.
Finished in
No,
the 80s.
no, that's what I mean. Like with early anime, you had Dragon Ball, Sailor Moon.
All that stuff was finished.
Yeah, it was done.
By the time we got into it,
Yeah, so there was no kind of catching up worldwide, if that makes sense. Whereas with Naruto,
episode wise there was, but not manga wise. And then if you could find it in sub,
true. It was before the internet. But I feel
that was a time.
It was when you got the VHSs from Target and Walmart, and you were like, hey, I'm able to watch it before it hit Toonami.
Folks, he's too young. Blockbuster. Too young. You don't know. He wasn't Blockbuster, and oh man, if we had some other people, they could go even further back. What's the name? FYE. FYE's been around for a really long time. They've been selling anime for a long time.
Okay.
They sold it before it was cool too.
Okay. But yeah, there that was one era, but the Naruto era was just you watched it and you watched it online. You talked about it with your friends. You kept up with it. It was a cool time.
You grew up with Naruto. We grew up with Naruto. I mean, we grew up with Dragon Ball Z as well, but as CJ was saying, it's different because that story was completed. In comparison to this, was the weekly chapters were released every week, and it was something we looked forward to, something we talked about, something we argued about.
Yeah. So if you can't If we do a Naruto episode, it's not going to be just one. It's going to be multiple. We're going to have to dive deep, and it's going to be so much to cover. Much. So we're holding off on that for right now.
Again, commitment. Commitment.
But back to my original point, and the reason we're doing this podcast today is because with people not being able to go to movies, some folks might be looking for something to give them a good storyline, to give them some solid entertainment, and not everyone knows the joy that gaming can bring. Don't get me wrong, gaming's insanely popular. It's insanely well known now. It's not some niche thing. Like The Last of Us 2 sold more money than any other video game I think the PlayStation's ever released.
Yeah, if you wanted a story,
You got a story.
They put a story together, all right.
They gave you a story,
Hey,
but
listen.
we're talking about some of the best stories in our like in our opinion, in gaming.
Yeah,
And
today we're gonna just tell you a little bit about stories that we love, stories that captured us, and from video games, because video games, like pretty much everything, is another form of art, and it allows, I don't want to say directors, but it allows writers to utilize a medium different than a comic book, different than an actual book, different than a movie. It is an interactive story that you can kind of shape it, or you can kind of mold to your own will in some shape, in some instances for sure, but you are experiencing the story versus just viewing it, and I think that's what separates video games from a lot of other mediums of storytelling.
yeah, definitely. So, kicking it off, Shelby, would you like to go first? What would you say would
Oh,
be
I got one. I got
what
some fire for you.
what would you say would be one of your top video game storylines?
Oh boy. Well, this one is an oldie, but it's a goodie. It is currently kind of missing in action. Man, this game for me was the first
Oh,
closest
I
to
know exactly what
horror
you're talking
game that
about. I know
I
exactly what you're talking about.
ever played, and it kind of blew my mind. It was BioShock.
Oh,
Uh,
would you kindly explain this story to everyone?
I certainly will, sir. So, if you aren't familiar with BioShock, BioShock is a game that originally was on PC, kind of blew up and got transferred over to console, and then it blew up on console. And it's the main character. His name is Jack. Doesn't really speak or anything like that, which shows the limitations they were dealing with at the time. But it was graphically amazing. It was one of the most beautiful games on the PS3, and it's about this guy that ends up in this underwater city called Rapture, where it's a city that's not bound by the typical constraints of most countries, and so they aren't really held back by regular social norms. And some stuff goes down where people are splicing. It gives them superpowers, and they're like drug addicts. And you're trying to make your way through this city that is underwater. Okay. Now I know it sounds crazy, but if you got a few minutes, go watch the trailer for. Just type in Bioshock trailer, and you will be like, "What is going on?" Because it is a crazy concept, but the story and the design of the game is just so amazing. It's so claustrophobic, and it was still a pretty unique premise as far as being completely underwater. You have to deal with these enemies called Big Daddies. Like BioShock was so unique, and it was so out there, and it worked so well because of the atmosphere.
And it was terrifying.
It was terrible. It was a
Like
scary game for me, for someone that wasn't used to playing horror games. But what happened was the demo really captivated me. Right? It's like you start off in this plane, the plane crashes. You got to emerge. The plane crashes in the ocean. You have to emerge from the ocean. You see this lighthouse. Go to the lighthouse because that's the only place you can go. And then it like takes you to this underwater city, and you're trying to figure out what's going on. In the city itself is no longer functioning. It is kind of like abandoned, and the only people that are left are these superpowered drug addicts. like,
Yeah.
like that's the best way to describe it. And you're like, okay, what happened here? And there's these recordings, and BioShock was one of the first games to really implement to where you find recordings, and they kind of you play the recordings. They kind of give you history of what happened in this city and why the city is the way it is right now. And it has, if you if you don't know the twist of BioShock by now, at the time it had one of the biggest twists in video games like ever at that point.
I still say it is one of the biggest twists in video games.
Oh, it's just a wild twist. It's just old now.
Yeah, it's very very old.
Yeah, I think the game came out in 2008.
Yeah. Oh, it's an old game. It was back in the PS3 360 era.
yeah, a lot of people are familiar with the twist of BioShock, but for those who don't game, if you just want to listen to, like, you can watch someone play through BioShock, and that twist will be like, what? You gonna be like, what? Oh no. So yeah, that's a story that really captivated me and impressed me a lot more than I thought it was going to.
Following that up, actually, this isn't on my list, but it did make me think of it. Bioshock has it's a series technically, but the third game in the series isn't really a sequel as much as it is. What would you say? A new world that's still somehow connected to the Bioshock
I
world.
mean, BioShock Infinite is a sequel to the BioShock series, but it's not
A
directly a sequel to
to
the story of
Yeah,
BioShock.
yeah, but
So
Bioshock's
it's an
Infinite.
honorable mention.
Yeah, I gotta give it an honorable mention because there are definitely moments where the story of Bioshock Infinite is a little bit lacking. You're basically playing this character named Booker DeWitt. He's this old school kind of
Booker.
detective guy that is randomly somehow ends up. God, what's the name of the city? Hold on, I gotta look up the Columbia.
New
Is it
Columbia. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And
Um,
Columbia was a city in the sky.
yeah, Columbia is a city in the sky, and the world of Columbia is honestly kind of insane because it's really like it takes far right America and like pushes it to its extreme.
We may
Like,
review that one day as well.
yeah, but the storyline that you end up getting because the main story follows Booker trying to save this girl named Elizabeth who's stuck in kind of this cage by the creator of this world, and you have to essentially like save her from this monster that kind of protects her that is always trying to
The
that's always trying to
songbird.
kill you. And the songbird, like they're like the game has
I never got that pop.
the
Huh.
game has some issues. I won't deny that. There's some gameplay mechanics that aren't as good as the original BioShock. There's some things that are missing, but God, there's certain points in that game where I was just like, this is incredible. And the ending of that game is something that I don't think anyone was expecting at the time
Exactly.
that it came
Yeah.
out. So I think that's another one that has to be honorably mentioned because the story and the ending of the story is just like what? Because the thing about it is Elizabeth has this ability to cross dimensions and
Not
open up.
cross dimensions.
She opens up.
She can
open
open up
rifts.
tears.
Yeah,
rips and dimensions.
tears and rifts and dimensions, allowing you to incorporate things from different worlds into our current world, if that makes sense. And it's just so bonkers, but it works.
Since
It
this
works
is an
well.
honorable mention, like I don't know. I think the ending, playing BioShock Infinite for the ending, definitely it is a surprise ending. I don't think the story compares to the original.
No,
So
it
I'll give it
doesn't
an
compare to it.
honorable
That's what I'm
mention.
saying. That's why
I
I
don't
say it
think,
deserves an
yeah, I'm
honorable
saying
mention.
even the ride to that ending, I'm like, no, not quite for me. But what's on
All
your
right,
list? What you got?
the first one on my list is one that I don't want to spend too much time on because we've done a whole podcast on it. We've done a comparison as to saying why it's the best exclusive on the PS4. We've gone into it in detail, but story wise, I gotta give it up to Horizon Zero Dawn. Just
See,
because
I'm picking some stuff. I mean, that's fine. I was
no,
just gonna
I
let you know I'm picking some stuff we haven't talked
oh I
about.
know
And
I've got plenty of other stuff
we'll
in my
see.
back
We'll see.
pocket. I just wanted to bring
We'll
this
see.
up because I want to just reemphasize that like this game deserves to be played by everyone if you can because now it's on PC. So Xbox players, if I'm not mistaken, you guys now have access to PC games. Give that mess a try.
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
give it a play. Please give it a play. The storyline for Horizon Zero Dawn and the finding out how humanity came to an end is
It's
such
good.
a
It's quite
ride.
good.
It's such a
Yeah,
ride.
we definitely talked about it before. It's
But
quite good.
yeah, so that's on my list. But let me go with one that we haven't talked about. I would have to say that, and I guess technically you kind of need to play the trilogy for it to have the same impact. but God of War 3.
Oh, for sure.
God of War 3, in my opinion, is the most entertaining game out of the God of War series, and that includes God of War PS4. There's a lot of people that I know disagree with me, and that fully believe that God of War 4 is the best God of War game. And you have arguments. You have arguments for it, but let's start off with how God of War 3 starts off.
Can I just real quick before we make that, for those who believe that, and that is your choice to believe that, I'm going to ask you this: what did God of War, the PS4 version, do that was not in God of War 3?
Nothing really.
If you look at it from that context, there is actually less in God of War in terms of gameplay mechanics than there are in God of War 3. Now that's completely fine, right? Because they added RPG elements to it. But I cannot agree with, as someone that is currently playing through God of War again and has played God of War 3 multiple times. It has a better story overall. Yeah, better character development. Yeah, sure, but that ain't it, Chief.
But yeah, so the God of War 3 storyline specifically,
Titans, bro.
I think maybe it's because, like I said, you kind of need to play God of War 2 especially, maybe not 1 so much, but 2 especially, to understand why.
Well, why don't you just think
just
count the trilogy?
Okay, yeah. So the God of War trilogy in general is just a great storyline because, for those who just hopped on God of War when the PS4 came out,
you missed so much.
You missed how Kratos became
Kratos.
You missed why he didn't want to use the Blades of Chaos anymore. Like, the God of War is essentially about one man's quest for revenge, taking him so far that it almost ends humanity, and like takes him to literally kill gods. Like you think Baldur got it bad? You gonna see what happened to Zeus? You gonna see what happened to Kronos? You gonna see what happened to Gaia? Like there's so much that happens to.
But you didn't see what happened to Poseidon.
Oh my God, there's so much, but the thing about it is that there's just certain moments, and this might be a gameplay moment that's kind of making that influences me into thinking this. But when you are climbing up Mount Olympus in God of War 3 at the beginning of that game, and you see Zeus, Hades, Hermes, and Poseidon looking down on you, climbing up on the Titans, and that's when the fight just basically begins. It's such a nuts moment that you can't help but enjoy yourself. And then you come to find out that there are other powers at B that are the reason why the gods have become so demented, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And you learn a lot more as to why things are the way they are. And that's all through another adventure that, again, sends you back through Hades and sends you back through the underworld. And
I was just going to say that in comparing the two again, like they're basically like two types of movies, right?
Yeah.
God of War 3 is like an action adventure movie, to where God of War is like a action drama or something along those lines. I don't know if that's but
that's fair.
There are two different types of games story wise, and as a series, 1, 2, and 3 definitely comprise a better story overall than the fourth one.
Now,
but I can see that.
There's a chance that the next God of War saga, when it's all said and done, could be better. There's a complete chance of that being the case. But we have to wait and see as of right now. But I stand by that the original trilogy God of War is just one of the best storylines in the history of gaming that could be a movie, should be a movie.
It should be. Because it's very entertaining.
Yeah, and it's such a fun ride. It's such a fun ride.
It's an amazing ride. I don't think the story. Well, the story does break some ground. I don't think the story is so much groundbreaking to where that those games are what carry that story along and make you super interested and invested
but
in it.
It's so much fun that you want to keep playing it, and just when you learn certain things, like I mean, everyone knows this. When you learn that Kratos is actually the son of Zeus, and Zeus is like, nah, you're not about to do what I did to my dad, like that in God of War 2, and then that whole saga from 2 onward, it's bonkers.
Even not one is bonkers too. One is pretty good. You might not remember it, but
yeah, I mean, it's been a minute since I played it. That's true, but
the whole thing with Ares that led into what we ended up getting. So, okay, we're talking about story. Man, I got one. You're gonna like this one.
Okay.
This one is an oldie from the PS3 era, and it ended up getting transferred over to the PS4. Catherine.
Wow. Okay.
I love the story of Catherine.
So the story of Catherine, like I just played Catherine Full Body. Don't get me wrong; it's an interesting story, but it's kind of like, and maybe my gameplay through was kind of generic. Yeah. So maybe that might be it.
But give you that impression. No, but so Catherine, for those who don't know, funny enough, I was telling my TL about this game and trying to explain it to her. Catherine is a puzzle game. Now don't incorporate the fact that it's puzzle based, or you got to do the. I find that game, the story of that game, super interesting. One, it is the first example of a game where you choose your own path, right? But it's a story about this middle of the road guy named Vincent, and how he's dating this girl named Catherine with a K, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And she's kind of like a uptight businesswoman, but she wants to know where they're going to go with their relationship, and they've been dating for a few years, and are they going to get married? Type
the situation's a little rocky. It's a little rocky.
It's a little. Well, Vincent he hasn't fully decided what he wanted to do with his life, and he ends up meeting this other girl who just so happened to be named Catherine, and he ends up cheating on Catherine with a K with Catherine with a C, and so you are then cursed to like have to escape these hellish landscapes every night, like, and it's a curse. It's a reoccurring curse. It happens like every 100 years, and it's a mystery. And so you're trying to figure out what this mystery is, what's going on with your life. You're trying to balance your relationship with Catherine. And I think the story overall, as each night progresses and Vincent kind of becomes more of whatever direction you push him in, is super interesting. And you it's like there are these parallels between like heaven and hell, and you have to answer questions, and the questions kind of influence the game as well. And I find the questions super interesting too. Like, I love stuff like that. So overall, the story of Catherine, again, you make decisions, and those decisions are reflected in the game, which I find interesting. And then the mystery itself, I find interesting, trying to figure out what's going on, trying to survive to the last night, because the rumors about the curse and how if you survive you get a wish, and that, you know, I like the story. I'm trying not to spoil it too much.
Right, we can't. Yeah, because this one, there are certain things about this game that will catch you off guard, and then Catherine Full Bodied incorporates another Catherine.
Ren. Yeah, I'm not even going to talk about Ren. Okay. I'm not even going to include that for reasons, but it is just interesting to see how, again, because it's a game, your choices are reflected in the game, and whether or not you end up staying with your girlfriend Catherine with a K, or you ended up going with this new Catherine with a C. I think it's a good story. I love talking to everyone in the bar. There's tons of information you can find out in game from talking to people. You get text messages and you have to respond to the text.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, it's honestly more of a story-driven game than anything else, because the puzzles themselves are just puzzles, if that makes sense. They don't offer anything to the.
It does. It does because the puzzles reflect what Vincent fears.
Okay.
If you pay attention and you talk to everybody, everybody sees different things in the puzzles.
Okay.
When they're being chased by stuff,
Oh,
they each
okay.
have different experiences, and it's a reflection of what's going on in their life. And it's just super interesting from a psychological standpoint. Again, you get to pick, you get to choose. The game has multiple endings to where you can have like
Several.
a really good ending where you get married, or a really bad ending where you do some stuff. So I think overall, if you are interested in a like romance kind of drama story that has puzzle elements, Catherine is a good story. I mean, I bought the game twice for that reason. Well, the first time I didn't buy it. Shout out to Hussein, but he doesn't listen to his podcast, so it doesn't matter.
So I'm gonna list a real oldie. I mean, back like 2007, PS2 era. PS2 era.
You better not steal my game.
Nah, because I don't think you played this one. Okami.
Oh,
So
visual storytelling as well.
yeah,
We
yeah.
talked about it in Bioshock, but yeah, go ahead.
So Okami is one of those games that I feel like no one played. Like, I got very lucky in that I had access to G4 and XPlay,
Yeah.
which
Old
was
school.
which was back in the day, was for a gamer, that was your go-to. I watch
That was
this
your
every
station.
day. They give me video game recommendations. They got me on the cheat codes. It's my station. And around, I think it was '06. I'm almost positive it was '06. It was right when the PS2 was coming to an end and the PS3 was releasing.
Ramping up.
Capcom and a developer named Clover, which is recently closed, released this game called Okami, and I feel like no one knew what it was about.
A lot of people played it though.
Yeah, everyone I've talked to, it seems like no one really had any idea. But
So Okami originally released for GameCube,
it did.
and then it came to, if I recall.
I think it was. I think I'm almost positive it was a PS2
I'm about to
exclusive,
look it
bro.
up.
But
I'm about to look it
anyway,
up.
so you play as Amaterasu, the goddess of the sun, but you're in the form of a dog. Like you are in the form of a dog that has a weapon on its back. It can either be a chain, it can be a sword, it can be a shield, and the storyline at first seems really simple. It's the storyline of Orochi the dragon and how the swordsman Susanoo defeats him. And it's pretty simple. You think, oh, it's pretty straightforward. This dragon lord is kind of corrupting the world. Okami is here to kind of free it from corruption, defeat these nightmares, save people, and you help Susanoo in the process of doing that. And then it just explodes. From after the first part of the game, and my 12-year-old brain thought that, oh, I'm done. I got a whole nother level coming. I got a whole new section after that, and I'm like, oh, I guess I get to play more.
Yeah,
And
what happened story wise at that point?
Story wise, if I'm not mistaken, I honestly need to go back and double check. But you eventually kind of go into the history of this world, and you start kind of traveling back in time and seeing why things got the way they were, and how Orochi actually came to power, and how it's actually a repeat of what happened, like, at least a couple thousand years ago.
Okay, I remember what happened. I always wanted to buy Okami, but I didn't have the money for it.
Okay.
And so I just never got it and never played it. But I always wanted to play it.
And I think, and honestly, I'm surprised that you and I never talked about it, because I would have given it to you.
We have talked about it. I don't know what happened that
caused it to
I just never got it. But I always, visually the game is impressive, and it's based off of Japanese mythology. But yeah, I don't know.
And
I don't
yeah,
know what happened.
visually the game is absolutely insane. Uh, the the way that the story kind of develops though, and I'm going in a little bit more detail. Yeah, now I remember. Once you kill Orochi, you realize that these other demons are starting to pop up, and you have to basically follow Orochi's spirit to try to take on these demons, because it's like its evil spirit pops through and never disappears. And Okami's main goal is to defeat these demons. Is like to defeat this demon and clear the darkness.
All right. So from what you said, Sundog fights demons.
Yeah, Sundog fights demons, but it's worth it.
Okay.
I remember there were multiple. I wish I could go back and play this. Honestly,
let me ask you this. It's on Wii. What about the story made it stick out to you?
Because at a certain point, you get there's a revelation in this game where you realize how the world got the way it is, and I noticed that's a big thing for me in a lot of games when like I don't expect something to happen. Yeah, where you get hit with the whoa, and you start looking like Mr. Krabs, like what's going on here? Why are things this way? And you end up getting this genuine connection with these characters, because the characters in this game are very, very well written, and you end up getting this genuine connection, and you end up essentially really falling for wanting to help these people, and eventually once you kind of learn how your main companion in the game, like you get backstories on your main companion in the game, you get backstories on Susanoo, you get backstories on even how Orochi came to be, and like once all these backstories come together, it just flows into this really, really well written full circle story.
Okay. I got one for you.
All right, what you got?
You're not gonna expect it, but I think it's a really good story, and you know what? I was actively disappointed that there wasn't going to be a continuation in the story. So yeah, the next series was one of the leading titles for the PlayStation 3.
Okay.
It was my first PlayStation 3 game, and it was very entertaining. And the concept behind it, man, we got to do the movie series one again. The concept behind it could be made into a movie.
Also, I just looked this up. I did not know this, but you can get Okami for the Nintendo Switch. I might have to do that.
Yeah, man.
That might have to happen.
Switch owners. Now you got 3 games to play.
Right.
For me, just because I want to do some stuff that's kind of out of the box, Resistance.
Oh.
So we're talking about great stories. We're talking about good stories in video games, right?
Yeah.
All right. Now, CJ's face, for ladies and gentlemen, for those who aren't watching this on the YouTube channel, shout out AFP Pod, the YouTube channel. CJ's face is saying, "What are you talking about?" What?
Not what are you talking about? I just remember that Resistance 1 and Resistance 2 had pretty decent storylines, and then I heard Resistance 3 just fell off.
Resistance 3 is what caused it to be canceled, but it's due to the story, not the storytelling. So, for those who don't know, which is probably everyone, because probably even CJ,
I didn't play Resistance.
Resistance is a pretty simple premise, but it was executed very well. Resistance is about, the very first one is about you're the soldier, and it's during World War II. And basically, there's a large-scale alien invasion. It is taken very seriously by the game developers. It's taken very seriously by the world of Resistance. And so the gimmick basically is you have to fight these technologically advanced aliens in the 50s as humans. Humans literally go to war with this alien race.
In the 50s, which sounds so much worse.
Yeah, it is. It was worse. And basically, it deals with the spread of a virus that turns humans into these creatures, um, like the foot soldiers, basically. And this one guy, he gets infected with it,
Mm-hmm.
but he is immune, which is a premise that would be later used in another game. Funny enough.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah, he's immune. He's not the only one that's immune though. And it kind of gives him somewhat extra abilities, nothing too crazy. And so the first resistance is about you kind of making your way through America. No, you're not in America in the first one. In the first one, you're in England or somewhere like that. You're making your way through and you're trying to, push this alien force back.
Mm-hmm.
And then that goes on. Resistance 2 rolls around, and now you're in America. Still playing as the same guy, trying to work some things out, but he's a little different. His infection is affecting him a little differently this game around, and the boss fights as well as the visuals, storytelling, and just going through America and seeing how bad this invasion has just crippled the world, if not just America, is really interesting, entertaining, and finding out about the aliens and like how they had been here for a long time, but we reawoken them, and so on and so forth. It's just entertaining. And the reason that the third one, for those who care, I don't think there's any place you can play this outside of PlayStation 3. So at the
You
end of
might be able to
Resistance,
access it on through PS Plus or PlayStation Now.
maybe. So the main character dies at the end of Resistance 2 because basically what was happening to him was he was still infected, but he had like a higher grade of infection. It like gave him powers, and the aliens had these things called angels, and he was like mentally connected to them, and eventually he just kind of lost out to that. So the guy you are going to be playing as in the third game shoots him in the head before it's like too late. And that's when you find out you're gonna be playing as this next guy. And the story in the third game is pretty good. It's pretty much like a side quest type deal. Like at this point, humanity, there is no more army. Humanity's kind of been like pushed
To
to
the
the
brink.
brink, and it's just about them kind of like trying to find a way. That's why it's not as well received and it didn't do as well. But yeah, I recommend the Resistance as a story at the very least. It is an interesting story.
Okay. Sticking to shooters now, to the PS3, Xbox 360 era.
He's gonna
Um,
act trap
this is a very common
for good
choice
for good.
for billions of people. I'm going to go with billions of people have played this game. It is close and near and dear to everyone's heart. It has currently been remastered for the PS4 and Xbox One, and
Yes.
I need to play it. I need to play it. Modern Warfare, Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 2.
You might as well include the whole series, but
I don't know if I can include 3 as much as because
yeah, 3 ends the story.
3 ends the story, but it's not nearly as amazing as 2 was.
I enjoyed 3.
I enjoyed 3, but just okay. So let's
I
go
don't
into
think. Hold
why.
on. Okay, let me
2
put
is
it
so
to you
great.
let me put it to you like this. Let me put it to you like this. It's the same thing as the Dark Knight trilogy, right? It doesn't end bad in any way. Yeah,
It
it's not
doesn't,
as good as
yeah.
the previous one. It's not as good as the middle one, which was the height of it, sure. But it doesn't end bad by any means. I love the way that game ends.
Oh,
I don't know if you remember
no,
it.
I remember.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
But the so let's get into Modern Warfare in general as far as storytelling goes. So first game, you're introduced to this elite squad of British military soldiers that are led by this Captain Price, who is this. There's no other way to describe it other than badass. Who is amazing at his job. He just does things that you're like, oh, this is what it's like to work with an elite squadron. That this is cool, and you're trying to stop essentially World War World War III from happening. And for the most part, in Modern Warfare 1, you do. Like you're able to, even though a nuke does go off, which is insane when it happens, you're able to make it work. But like there are certain moments in Modern Warfare 1 where where like that stick out in everyone's mind. Everyone remembers Ghillie in the Mist. No one.
Oh yeah.
No one will ever forget Ghillie in the Mist.
That was tough. That was tough.
But that might be because of the difficulty of that level, but also just because of like what that was like experiencing that. But none of those moments have anything on the moments that happen in Modern Warfare 2. Modern Warfare 2 has two things. One, it's the first game that I think in a long time got a lot of people riled up and nervous that video games are going to make people more violent. But when no Russian happens, like you've said in the past, you don't have to shoot the gun, but sometimes you're just like, what is going on? Oh my God, how is this happening? Why am I doing this? Why is this occurring?
It puts you in it, because I didn't even fully understand what we was doing. I was just like, okay, what we about to do? Like the mission? All right, go in. Okay. And then you're in the airport.
You're in the airport with several guns, and you see what happens. But after no Russian occurs, then you have to basically try to figure out how to stop Russia from trying to murk the United States into oblivion. And the only person who can really do it is Price. And you end up finding him again because he's randomly disappeared. And,
I can't wait to play that.
Yeah. But then you get to the ending of the game where I just remember the anger and rage I felt when the betrayal of this game happens. Like you can't tell me that you just weren't hurt watching what was occurring on screen, because there was nothing you could do.
Yeah, so for those who haven't noticed yet, if you're still listening to the podcast at this point, thank you. Games that tell great stories do a good job of making you feel something. Like it's very similar to a movie, but you are personally experiencing it. And Modern Warfare, to me, mastered the action movie. But it had a good story, but it has all these set pieces. Like when you are on the mountain, and then you have to
scale up the mountain with ice picks, and then you have to no, it's jet ski. It's not snow machine. Snowmobile. You have to snowmobile down it.
Then you got to but you got to shoot people at the same time. Or when you're underwater and you're approaching that one place, and then you kill my man underwater, you pull him into the water. Yep.
Or when you're chasing someone down in the freaking favelas of Rio de Janeiro and just jumping like from building to building.
Yeah, they mastered it was an action movie, and you were the action star pretty much. But you had characters that you cared about. You cared about Soap. You cared about Price. You cared about Ghost.
God, you cared about Ghost. Everyone cared about Ghost.
Because Ghost was Ghost. He was Ghost. But we're not going to talk about that. But yeah, I feel like overall that trilogy did a really good job of capturing a movie. And I think that they had a clear idea when they set out making those games. Like, we're going to tell this story, but we're going to make them feel like they're in an action movie. And those are the games or the series that kind of do the best.
Yeah, the only other Call of Duty storyline that I think is the equivalent of Modern Warfare, for a portion of it, is zombies in Black Ops 3. Like that's the only one that has a storyline equivalency of Modern Warfare storyline.
Speaking of, I want to give a shout out to Call of Duty Ghost. Great story.
Really? I never actually played Call of Duty Ghost. That was when
Ask your cousin.
Okay.
Ask your cousin. How's the story? Call of Duty Ghost has a great story. It just the multiplayer threw a lot of people off, but the story was solid.
Okay.
That's when you had the dog.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Okay. That Ghost was one of the few ones I missed out on. But and that's the thing about Call of Duty. Like some Call of Duty games have really good multiplayer. Some of them have really good story modes. And the Modern Warfare series, and I'd even say the current version of Modern Warfare, because they just rebooted it, had a decent enough story. Like, it was fun to play. It wasn't nearly as good as the first one. It wasn't nearly as good as Modern Warfare 1. But I am excited to see where they go with it next. You got any others for me, Shell? Because I think I got one more I have to talk. Oh, two more that I can bring up.
I got another one since we're talking about series, and this is one that we've honestly talked about before. But it's so good that you can take one game out of it and it's still amazing.
Okay.
You know what it is.
Oh, I think I know what it is, and I hope I'm right. What?
Arkham.
Okay.
Arkham. Amazing storytelling. See, again, not only was it just a Batman game, but they took the time to craft this amazing story. Okay, Arkham Asylum is the Joker's taking over Arkham Asylum, which is an island. You're trapped on this island for one night.
Which is a great comic book story in general. Like, that's something you'd expect to see in a DC animated film.
Yeah, or just a book, like you said, a comic book. Arkham City ramps it up.
Jesus
somehow
Christ, Arkham City.
They turn somehow a part of the city became sectioned off.
And left to the villains to basically run.
Because of Hugo Strange.
Yeah, somehow Hugo Strange manipulates Gotham's mayor. I don't really understand how he got that kind of power.
We have to go back. I own it for PS4. I'm going back, boy. I'm going back. I've been meaning to go back because I want to drive the Batmobile again. And then you have Arkham Knight.
Funny enough, when I think about it, Arkham Knight may actually have the best storyline out of the three of them.
The way it is presented is very well done. I think we've talked about this before, which one has the better story between Arkham City and Arkham Knight, and it's really close. But the flashbacks, as well as the way that you see things mentally in Arkham Knight, is great.
Yeah, I mean,
because I thank the Lord that the Joker was gone. I was so happy that the Joker was gone.
Nope.
First thing you do in the game is burn his body. Yeah, this is awesome. This is the best Batman game, hands down.
Nope. You can't get rid of Mark Hamill.
And then it wasn't quite what I thought, but I even like the way that was incorporated. It made sense. You know,
I agree.
So, but it just plays out like a beautiful, beautiful movie. They honestly could do don't do a live action version of it, but you could do, like you said, an animated version of it, and it would be amazing.
Yeah. You might not be able to hit on every storyline because gaming allows you to have multiple storylines more than you do in an animated film. But the general consensus is that the storyline for the Arkham series, along with the gameplay, just kind of like how the storyline for Spider-Man really set up and saved the superhero genre almost.
For video games.
Sure.
Yeah, but if you don't know, it's pretty much a continuation from the 90s animated Batman series in a sense.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, just with updated character models.
Yeah, and it is an amazing story that you feel all the way through, from beginning to end. Like, I don't know anybody that was unhappy with that series because the story just grabs you, you know?
Yeah, from the moment you start. Like, almost from the moment you start. And then I will say the difference between between Arkham Knight and Arkham City, at least, is that Arkham Knight, if you are a Batman fan, kind of unravels the way you expect it to. While Arkham City incorporated some things I wasn't expecting at all.
Yeah, because we were still new to the game at that point.
Yeah, so
like comic books.
Yeah, we were fans, and we didn't know the depth of everything.
Exactly. So, yeah, that would be my. We can That'll be my last one. I mean, I'm sure we
Okay,
could go
I've
on,
got
but
I've got two that I've got a list, but one I can I don't need to go into too much because again we have discussed it and in detail. There is an overwhelming consensus that the best story ever created for video gaming is The Last of Us.
what
Partially,
you do, Basil?
partially because it is it really was one of the first games that felt like you were playing a movie and really had heart like the heart feeling moments that are in that game are very 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 touching. And I say everyone should play it. But we discussed that in the last two episodes. I mean, not the last two, but in the last
Recently.
month we've discussed it. So instead, I'm going to focus on another series that had what is overwhelmingly one of the most divisive endings ever created for a gaming series. But its second game might be one of the best games I've ever played. Mass Effect. So, Mass Effect 2 has a storyline unlike anything I'd ever played up until that point. The way that that game incorporates the different alien races and incorporates this crew that you have to build to go on this suicide mission, and basically sets up where if you don't do certain things, the characters that you've built these bonds with die. Like it really does mess with your gameplay and it messes with how you think. And then the overarching storylines that continue from Mass Effect 2, Mass Effect 1, all the way through Mass Effect 3 are great. Like the Krogan storyline involving how they're this dominant destructive force, and then all the other alien races in the world came together to create this disease called the genophage that wiped them out and basically made them infertile. And like how you how you come in and it's up to you. You can either end the genophage or you can potentially let it be. Like you can let the Krogan end. I don't know anyone that let the Krogan come to an end. I literally know no one that took that storyline arc. But the way that you end up saving that alien race in Mass Effect 3 is one of the things that I'll always remember, and I think it's something that people should really experience. The problem with this game series is that the ending is not great. It's one of those games.
How can you really recommend it if it's not great? What are we talking about here?
The same way we recommend Game of Thrones, even though the ending of Game of Thrones wasn't satisfying for certain people. The ride to it is amazing. The ride to the end of the Mass Effect trilogy is
no. You got me. I'll take that. Yeah.
So, I just think that people deserve to play some of these games that we've listed, even if you're not a serious gamer, but you know someone who is, like, just see what they think of the games we've listed, and you'll see that for the most part the consensus is pretty much the same. I think we've also listed games that aren't really too hard for people to get into. Like, a lot of these games have different difficulty settings where if you're not deep into everything, you can kind of jump in at a later point. You can jump in and still have a good time. And this is just the surface. There's plenty of other great games and great storylines out there that we haven't touched. Like,
for sure.
There's we didn't talk about Grand Theft Auto 6. We didn't talk about Red Dead Redemption. We didn't talk about any of the Legend of Zelda series, and or any of the Final Fantasy games. There's plenty of games out there that's where the storylines are the main reason to play them. Beyond just Skyrim, yeah. The Fallout series. There's just so many games that the storyline is why people continue to play, and the memories that these stories make are what drives gaming, in my opinion. I think that's just going to continue.
In today's time, for sure, you have to have a good story to go along with your game, because if you don't, I mean, it just becomes another one of the many games that get put out.
Unless you're Monster Hunter.
Monster Hunter has a good story.
I think it's an okay story. It's not like the most amazing thing on planet Earth. Where you're this dude. You're a new hunter going to this new world.
I mean, yeah,
don't
get me wrong. I understand what you're saying, but I think the story is sufficient enough to where it's just like, okay, we're trying to figure out what's going on. The hunting is hunting and playing with other people is definitely what keep you coming back. But getting through the story, like, I don't think anybody ever goes, you know what, that story just was trash.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's true. And yeah, I think I don't know if we're going to be discussing gaming as much in our next episode.
Ghost of Tsushima. It's gaming's coming back.
Okay,
I'll tell everybody
that's fair.
It's coming
back.
back.
Okay, we'll definitely do it. I might actually have to buy that. I don't.
Well, Jeff has it, right?
No, I don't know if he does or doesn't.
He does. We talked about it. Okay. He said he was going to get it. I don't know if he has it right now. Yeah, he commented. Anyways, we'll definitely be bringing back gaming, but we'll try and switch it up and talk about some other things.
Especially because coming up, we will be doing it again. Legend of Korra, Netflix, August 14th. That means we're gonna have to do another deep dive show.
Yay!
I've got a feeling on rewatching it, I'm not going to have as many issues with it. Mainly because Korra, you might, but I'm going to.
I don't have issues with Korra. The show. This is a preview. The show does have some issues. I don't know why people think it's unfair to point those out in comparison to the original show. That's it. That's all I've ever said about Korra. There are some things you're gonna be like, huh? But we know the reasoning behind that, and we'll go over it in our episodes.
Yeah, so stay tuned for that, guys. Stay tuned for more talk, because we'll be back in our anime bag, too. Like we said, we want to do some stuff on Naruto. Fire Force Season 2 is dropped, from what I understand. It has been fire. ReZero. Oh, my God, ReZero. We will talk about ReZero at some point, too.
We'll have to rewatch it.
Yeah, there's some stuff coming out, folks, that's really worth getting into. So, just because movies are not a thing right now, doesn't mean that there's not plenty of fun things to watch and enjoy. So
exactly.
But that's gonna do it for us, guys. Like as always, please like, subscribe, tell your friends, comment on Facebook. I promise to get this Instagram page actually working. Follow us on Instagram. And again, more than anything, share this podcast with folks. If you think this is some good stuff, share it with people, get it out there. The more people we have listening, the better it'll be for us, and we truly, truly appreciate it.
Yeah, and leave recommendations as well down in the comments. Things you'd like to hear about, things you're interested in, and you like us to check out. Let us know. We love some feedback from you.
But that's going to do it for us. I'm CJ.
I'm Shelby.
And this is A Fan's Perspective, signing out.
We'll catch you next time.